GPT demo, ChatGPT 4. I'm passing in a question. Question reads, how do I create a REST endpoint which takes in a person details, first name max length equals 50, last name max length equals 50, and write the results to a database using Spring Boot with unit and end-to-end tests. And you can see that ChatGPT 4 kicks off to create a REST endpoint, gives you instructions as to how to create the Spring Boot project. You can go to the Spring Initializer and it gives you an entity class. What's particularly nice is it's applied validation to the entity class. It's created a JPA repository class for that person, and then it's created a REST controller which takes in a person and saves a response. I then asked it to write some tests for me. Here it's writing a unit test. It's using the Web MVC test framework. It's created a test for the person using Mox and Mockito. And then by the time we got to write to end-to-end tests, it's reached its maximum output limit. So basically what I did was I took that code and I shoved it into IntelliJ. It got part of the POM wrong, so it was just kind of missing this validation step dependency that needed, but I got it from Spring Boot Initializer. I wound it back to version 8, and then I put the classes in appropriate packages. So there's the person controller, and there's the person repository, and there's the person. It also didn't generate the getters and setters, so the test wouldn't have worked. But having said all that, I can now run this test. It will work. It will create a new person. It will mock the response to the repository. So here we're saying when the repo saves that person, this test person here, it will return the person, and then does a mock perform of the actual post to the endpoint. So person, content type, application, JSON, and then the person request, and expect that equal to true. And you can run that, and that's working. The test is passed. It's got all the details down there. What's even more interesting or more amazing is I then, after all that, I asked it, how could I test this with Postman? And it's given me instructions how to install Postman, how to create a new request. It's correctly predicted the URL that Spring Boot will use. And it's even given me a post object that I can use and copy into the response. And with the application running, I can just hit that endpoint as is. The only thing it missed here was the application JSON. So that was one small thing. But aside from that, it has been pretty impressive. And just to go over all of that, just really quickly again, I asked it at the beginning of the time, can you create me a class with person details with limits of 50? Can you write the results to a database and create a REST endpoint? It did all of that. And it created me a unit test, and then it gave me instructions on how to test it. So a fairly impressive response, even at this version.